The 2018 season for Auburn was not a very memorable one. They ended up going 8-5, and they had a good blowout win to Purdue at the end of the season, but it still was a very low one compared to recent years when they've dominated every spectrum of college football. And they've been able to keep up with teams like Alabama and Georgia. But this year was just more of a down one. But how are they going to do in 2019? Are they going to be able to return to that? And that's what we're going to be going over today. I'm going to be going over a few points as to who this team is going to be losing and who's going to be returning, and a few expectations there, along with we'll be giving a first look on their schedule and who I think that they may win and which ones could be losses. So looking at this, they went 8-5 last year. Lose Jarrett Stidham at early for the NFL. He's a quarterback. That is going to be a big loss to be able to cope with. Lose two receivers, Davis and Slayton. So looking at that, Davis and Slayton, both of those guys were starting, and they were way up there in the depth chart. So I think that's going to be tough losses for them. I think their passing game may be down next year for Auburn. They do return Cam Martin on running back. That is going to be huge. However, also on offense, they lose one tight end. So really, they return their entire offensive line. They lose three linebackers, one cornerback, and a defensive lineman on defense. They also return their entire defensive line. So really, lineman-wise, they're going to be great next year to be able to get more experienced guys in there. But how will losing Stidham be impactful? It should be pretty impactful. Really, last year, that was the main year. Last year, they are still a pretty young team, but they really had the potential to be able to do some great things, and I'm surprised that they didn't do as well as they did. I thought that this would be a team that would get 10 wins possibly and make a run for the SEC championship. But of course, it just didn't happen. I think this year their outlook is good. I don't expect them making it to the SEC championship again. I think it'll be a year sort of more or less similar to this one. I don't think they'll go 7-5 in the regular season once again, but I do think that they'll get to 8 or 9 wins at least. So here's their schedule. They've got more of a tougher one this year. They got Oregon to start off the season. Oregon is a very good team. They really just weren't as good last year, but I think they've got a potential to be a really good team next year, like they normally are. That is going to be in a neutral location. That is not a home game for Auburn. And then we got Tulane, Kent State. Those games should be easy wins, I think, for them. Obviously, having them both at home. And then really, the other game on their non-conference schedule is Samford. That's their one on November 23rd. That should be a win as well. Of course, Samford was able to keep up with Virginia Tech last year. They were able to keep up with Florida State. That was the team. And they almost beat them. So, Samford, can't really sleep on them, but still, I think that should be an easy game for Auburn to win. Then, the 4 games after Tulane and Kent State, they got Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Florida, and Arkansas. That should be their hardest stretch of the year, as you also have LSU the next week on the road. So, looking at that, I think out of those 5 games, they should win 2 of the 5, I think. If their season really doesn't go as well, if they end up losing to Oregon, you probably could expect them to win 1 out of there. I think Arkansas for sure could be a pretty good game for them to be able to win. Not expecting much from Arkansas next year, but just that being a road game is why I'm leaving that as a white game, meaning that it's too early to predict who's going to win that. But yeah, Texas A&M should be a win. Well, it could be a win, but that's on the road, so that's going to be a tougher one. That Texas A&M team with Jimbo Fisher, they're going to be really good next year, I think. They've got a lot of potential as well. Mississippi State at home, that could be a win right there. At Florida, that could be a tough one. Of course, Florida, also another team I expect to be pretty good next year. And then LSU, that's a game on this schedule where I think that they're going to end up losing. They're coming off of that 4-game stretch. Of course, Arkansas probably isn't that's not the toughest game in the world. But of course, you had those opponents before it. That is going to be a tough game for them to win. I don't think they win that one. Ole Miss, the next week, probably will beat them at home. Georgia, then. You also got Georgia at home. That is a game to watch out for an upset, I think. Especially with it coming to the end of the season. Georgia will be coming off of a tough stretch going into that game. So expect Auburn to be able to fight with Georgia in that game. I'm not saying they're going to win it yet. I'm just saying that's a game that definitely could have potential to be an upset. And then you got Alabama the final week, November 30th, like usual. Iron Bowl. That should be an interesting game as well, with them having Alabama at home. This is a very favorable schedule for Auburn to be able to have they got their toughest opponents at home, except for Texas A&M and Florida. And also LSU, don't mind them, but they also have Mississippi State, Georgia and Alabama at home. That's going to help them a ton. And then, of course, Oregon is in a neutral location. It is closer to Auburn than in Oregon. I believe that's in the AT&T Center in Texas. So that's something to note there. But yeah, Auburn estimated record, I'm going to say 5-7 to 9-3. 5-7 being their worst case scenario, 9-3 being their best case scenario. I don't really see this team getting to 10 wins this year. If you get to 10 wins, that means you can only lose 2 games on the schedule. I mean, I can't see them only losing 2. I think they'll lose to LSU. I mean, you can't rule out them getting to 10 wins. That is still possible. But I think that they're going to lose more than just 2 games. It's like, if you lose only 2 games, for example, if you lost to LSU and Florida, you'd also have to beat Texas A&M, Georgia, and Alabama. That'd be a really tough task to do. And also, you'd have to avoid all upsets. So that's why I'm saying 5-7 to 9-3 is my estimated record for Auburn this season. Should be a pretty good one, unless they, of course, get that 5-7 record. Expect them to make a bowl game, and team with much potential. Expect them to be pretty good. And then this is also a team that's going to be able to pull off some upsets, I believe, this year. Georgia and Alabama, 2 main games to watch out for upsets. Looking at month-wise, which is the toughest month, I would say. I mean, I believe they got 2 bye weeks. No. Yeah, every team has 2 bye weeks this season because it's an early start on August 31st. But their 2 bye weeks, I believe, are in October and then in November. So those are your 2 bye weeks for this team. I still think that October should be their toughest month because they got at Florida, at Arkansas, at LSU. 3 road games, even though you have a bye in there. So yeah, Auburn really is not at home until November after that Mississippi State game. So it's gonna be it'll be a tougher stretch for them in October. Anyway, that's about it for this video. Thank you guys all for watching. We're about done with the SEC. We got 3 more reviews to do, and then we'll be on to the Big Ten, I believe. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching. Show some support only if you'd like to, and stay tuned for more. I will see you all later.